The Vikings are on the clock. Those are the words that we'll hear in less than a week. Vikings picking 12th overall in this year's 2022 NFL Draft. I will end today's show with who the draft experts' consensus pick is for the Vikings. But let's get started with this show semi-quoting Paul Allen, and we're loose. Welcome to Minnesota Sports Talk. I'm your host, David Shelsky. You can follow me on Twitter at ScoWorld and at MN Sports Podcast. Today, I'm going to give you a few highlights from the week, some statistics that will make you think a little, and discuss who the experts think the Vikings are going to take with the 12th overall pick. But let's get started with a little tidbit. Pro Football Focus on Twitter declaring the Vikings-Bills Stefon Diggs trade to be, quote-unquote, the most even trade in NFL history. Yes, we selected, with the pick we got from the Bills, we selected Justin Jefferson. Thank you, Philadelphia Eagles, for not selecting him again. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. In comparison, Justin Jefferson got a 91.7 Pro Football Focus receiving grade over the past 2 years since the trade. Stefon Diggs, 90.6 Pro Football Focus receiving grade. So that's pretty even. 3,016 receiving yards by Justin Jefferson. 2,760 receiving yards by Stefon Diggs. Stefon Diggs and Justin Jefferson had a pretty even first year of the trade. 17 receiving touchdowns by Justin Jefferson. 18 receiving touchdowns by Stefon Diggs. Now, it turns out to be a win-win trade. Now we're looking at Stefon Diggs being a $25 million a year player. So we might have to enjoy Justin Jefferson while we have him. These receiving contracts, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later. These receiver contracts are what used to be quarterback contracts. And we used to think those were high. Now receivers are making that. So $25 million a year, I don't think Justin Jefferson takes anything less. But be it as it may, Pro Football Focus has named that the most even trade in NFL history. Now, another little Viking tidbit on the stat category. Most receiving TDs over the last 2 seasons. Number 1, Davante Adams. Bye-bye, Davante Adams. I'm so glad you are out of the NFC North. I'm sure everybody else listening is too. Mike Evans, well, that's Davante Adams with 29 touchdowns the last 2 seasons. Mike Evans, 27 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill, 24. He's off to the he's still in the AFC, thank goodness. Adam Thielen, Minnesota Viking, with 24 touchdowns, and DK Metcalf, 22 touchdowns. And that, considering that there was some lost time in there, Adam Thielen may take over Chris Carter's all he catches is touchdowns moniker from him. He does. He gets open in the red zone, and he's still a Viking. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Now, the most yards by receiver in the first 2 seasons goes to Justin Jefferson. Jamar Chase for the Cincinnati Bengals may have something to say about it this next year. Pretty impressive. Justin Jefferson with 3,016 yards. Who's throwing this guy the ball, by the way? We got 10 touchdowns, or we got 24 touchdowns with Adam Thielen in the past 2 years. We got 17 with Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson's got 3,016 yards, sets the record. Breaks it over Odell Beckham Jr., 2,755. Randy Moss, 2,726. Bill Groman, 2,648. And here's the name, Jerry Rice, 2,497. Who is throwing this guy the ball? Well, you know it. It's Kirk Cousins, who extended his contract. I'll talk about that in a little bit, too. Quotes from players this week as they went back to the offseason workouts. Adam Thielen quoted as saying, I would have hated, he used the word hated, not to be here with all the changes and excitement. I would hate to leave at this point in my career, and I hope to retire a Viking. Justin Jefferson, reported by Will Raggets, reported Justin Jefferson says he talked to Odell Beckham Jr. about Kevin O'Connell and has heard nothing but good things about his offensive mind and ability to connect with players. I'm ready for this season to start now. I did see a picture of him looking out of the TCO Performance practice facility, looking at snow, complaining that it's snowing in April. So hopefully that does not weigh into his decision to stay a Viking when his contract comes up. Dalvin Cook, on switching to number 4, he was asked, about switching to number 4. He says, you're going to see a version that you've never seen before, something special. There's something about Dalvin Cook and his confidence. I think he's a team player. He showed it last year playing hurt. I think normal season, Zimmer benches him, but he's trying to make himself look good as he's leaving the season and win a few games. Honestly, Dalvin Cook shouldn't have been playing. He had that hurt shoulder. He played. He even played in the game 17 when it didn't matter. That's Dalvin Cook for you. Team player. He wants to be better. The life expectancy of a running back in the NFL isn't very long. Dalvin Cook has had injuries, but when he's on the field, he performs. So I hope every word of that is correct by Dalvin Cook, and I'm looking forward to this season too. I want it to start right now. Now, this caused some, again, the YouTube channels, the K-Fan, Minnesota Vikings Daily, the Score North guys to go crazy. Kirk Cousins was asked about, his extension. He goes, the short answer is I wanted to be a Minnesota Viking. I wanted to help create some cap space so that we could put together a roster that you feel really good about. It's just always trying to find win-wins. I think it was a way to create a win-win, and then hopefully that leads to a lot of wins this fall. My mindset was really to be a Viking. I would like to retire a Viking, and so would like to play my way into that. If you will, I know I've got to earn the right to do that. That last sentence is what kind of set some pundits off about Kirk Cousins, about how he knows he needs to play into that. He's not saying he didn't play into that. He knows that he has to continue to play well to where the Vikings will extend him again and allow him to retire. He's not going to retire at 36 years old. He's still going pretty strong. He doesn't miss games. He hasn't had any severe injuries in his career, or in his NFL career. He's just like Adam Thielen. He wants to retire a Viking. I couldn't blame him. I would love to retire a Viking too. So don't look into it as much as those Score North guys. Now, there's some talk about, contracts and it in the salary cap and how much cap space a quarterback is using up. Warren Sharp of Sharp Football, and you can find him on Twitter at Sharp Football. I looked into them. They do a lot of cool statistical things, some interesting tidbits. He only listed the top 4 on Twitter, and I couldn't find the rest of the list, but top 4 salaries that are going to quarterback rooms, meaning all the quarterbacks in the quarterback room. The Titans are paying, or their cap space is taken up by $40.5 million, led by Ryan Tannehill. Number 2, the Chiefs, $39.9 million, led by Patrick Mahomes. 49ers, $36.7 million, led by Jimmy Garoppolo. Lions, $35.1 million, led by Jared Goff. The Lions are 4th on the list in cap hits going into the 2022 season. The Lions, 4th overall. Now, what is Minnesota? Well, Lions are 35.1. The Minnesota Vikings are 34.3 with Kirk Cousins, Sean Mannion, Kellen Mond, and Nate Stanley. Nate Stanley still on the payroll. He's going to be a guy, Nate Stanley's going to be a guy that, is going to try to make the team. If we draft a quarterback at any point in the draft, he's probably out. Now, the bottom, and he listed the bottom 5, 6 on Twitter. 32, Seattle, $2.3 million, led by Drew Lock. 31, Houston, $4.7 million by Kyle Allen. 30th, Phillies, $5 million, led by Gardner Minshew. 29th, Atlanta, $5.1 million, led by Marcus Mariota. 28th, New England, $5.4 million, led by Mac Jones. 27th, Pittsburgh, $7.7 million, led by Mason Rudolph. Now, there's a lot to be said that no one's won a Super Bowl with a more than 13% of the cap space taken up by their starting quarterback. Well, they never really talk about the whole quarterback room. And all you have to do is go back to 2022 Super Bowl, 2021 season, and look at the 2020 Rams, where Matt Stafford's making $20 million, or his cap hit is $20 million. Bryce Perkins is $600,000. And the dead cap space of Jared Goff is $24.7 million. The dead cap space of the Rams on Jared Goff was $24.7 million for a total of $45.36 million. They won the Super Bowl. So selective stats of no quarterback ever been over 13%. These guys are over 25% to their quarterback room, or well over 20, I think 23, 24% to their quarterback room, and their biggest hit isn't even on the team. He's playing for the Detroit Lions. So please, you can throw that 13% of the cap space going to the quarterback out the room. The Rams did it last year with like $49 million in dead cap money. $49 million in dead cap money, and they won the Super Bowl. Vikings are nowhere near that, and in fact are going to be under the cap as of now going into next year. So, selective statistics, there's a little more to it. You got to do a lot more context when you're talking about salary cap and what other teams have done. You got to look at what the dead cap hit for that team was in comparison. And the Rams did it with $49 million dead cap money and $24.7 million going to a quarterback not on their team. A few other interesting statistics. Warren Sharp, also with NBC Sports. The Vikings allowed TDs on 32.4% of opponents' drives in the final 4 minutes before halftime or the end of the game, worst in the NFL. So let's get this straight. There's 17 games. There's one half, and then there's the end of the game. So that would mean 34 times. 32.4% of those times, the Vikings allowed opponents to drive, in the final 4 minutes before halftime or at the end of the game and score a touchdown. 32.4%. Now let's give you the context. The NFL average is 12%. The Vikings were 32.4%. The Vikings rank 32nd last in the NFL on giving up touchdowns at the end of the half and the end of the game with less than 4 minutes to go. 31st was 20.6%. So we weren't just last. We were last by a ways. Instead of 20.6, we were 32.4%. That ranked, get this, 686th out of 686 teams since at least the year 2000. They went back and looked from 2000 to now, a total of 686 teams, right? 686 teams. The Vikings were dead last in 2021 of giving up touchdowns at the end of the half and the end of the game. That's how bad we were with defensive clock management. And I guess you could do offensive clock management into that too. But that's quality control, that's coaching decisions, that's timeouts, that's play calling. You know, how are we going to finish out a half? How are we going to finish out the game? And the Vikings were dead last in giving up touchdowns in that time. Just another added stat where the Vikings on defense were that bad. And you can now go look back and see why we made the changes we did. Here's a statistic that kind of tells you where the Vikings would need to be as a NFL Super Bowl contender. And that would be Pro Football Focus ranks offensive lines. And this is comparing the Vikings to the Super Bowl winner. In 2021, the Rams were ranked 7th. Vikings offensive line was ranked 23rd. Now, it's not desperate, but you can see how far we were off from being a Super Bowl contending offensive line. 2020, the Bucs were ranked 5th. Vikings 26th. This one was a little different. 2019, the Chiefs were 16th. Now, they were among the best at pass blocking, but struggled in run blocking. And the Vikings that year in the playoffs ranked 19th. So, little selective stats there, but you can see the Chiefs were actually a really good pass blocking team, but were a bad run blocking team. And you could tell that they threw the ball a lot. But they won the Super Bowl, but with the 16th ranked offensive line. In 2018, Patriots were ranked 4th in offensive line. Vikings were ranked 29th. So everybody talks about, well, Kirk Cousins had the 4th best defense in the league that year. Why didn't he win the Super Bowl then? Well, his offensive line was ranked 29th, and we had the league's worst run offense. Somewhere between 30 and 32. I think we were the worst. I don't want to look it up right now. But 2018, Kirk Cousins took over. We fired our offensive coordinator towards the end of the season. We couldn't run the ball. We had a healthy Dalvin Cook coming off his knee surgery, ACL surgery. Patriots were ranked 4th. They won the Super Bowl in offensive line. We were ranked 29th. Yeah, you need a little bit more than... We had a defense. We had no offensive line. That was probably the worst year of offensive line that we've had in our memory, or in recent memory. But that gives you a little idea. The time management, the clock management of end of half and end of games in our offensive line, and how that how that perpetrated a narrative to where, we weren't getting it done. Now you could look farther into it. People will say that, hey, we didn't, we had more 3-and-outs than anybody in the league. Well, if you go look at it, how many times are we 2 and 2nd and 12 and we ran the ball and now we're 3rd and 12 or 3rd and 15? And what did we do then? We ran the ball again and then punted. So how many times did you see that happen? And don't tell me you didn't. But I'm not going to lie. I wasn't too happy with many second down calls. And I would often get laughs from people I was watching the games with. If we passed on first down, we were guaranteed to run on the second down. And I would call it every time. And I remember one time saying, oh, wow, we actually passed it again on the second down. That was far and few in between. Every time if we were to pass on first down, we ran on second down, pretty much guaranteed. So if that first down failed, we were running it the next second down. Maybe we got a decent run, or maybe we got stuffed and we had 3rd and long, because we also led the league in yardage on 3rd down. We led the league in 3-and-outs, but we also led the league in yardage on 3rd down. And you got 2 receivers killing it. You got a running back killing it. Why aren't we more successful on 3rd down? It has a lot to do with play calling and where we are on 3rd down, and that was the longest of anybody in the league. So we made changes for a reason. We got a new coach for a reason. We got new defensive coaches for a reason. We got a new GM for a reason. A lot of decisions needed to be made based off of statistics that I'm talking about. Now, so let's talk about philosophy in the draft a little bit. I'm not going to do a lot. I'm pretty almost done with this show. But average salary of top 10 players by position. Top 10, so quarterback, receiver, running back, what are the top 10 average salaries per position? So quarterback, $40 million. The top 10 quarterbacks in the league are averaging $40 million. Kirk Cousins is under that. So out of the top 10 players in the league, $40 million is the average right now. So when Kirk Cousins talked about win-win, is he wrong? We're paying him less, so we get good production. I know people have a lot to say about his killer instinct. They talk about check down Charlie, even though he's in the top 10 in average yards per attempt, completion percentage, all those statistics. They are really worried about how, wins. They're talking about wins. That's what they talk about. Can he bring us to the Super Bowl? Well, it's, hey, we got a new coach with an offensive mind. Let's see what happened. Wide receiver, average for wide receiver, $23 million. So enjoy Justin Jefferson while we can. Hopefully we can make an arrangement. Hopefully with salary cap going up and all that and drafting the right players, we can afford a Justin Jefferson. Edge rusher, $22 million. Danielle Hunter, still wanting to get paid. He's going to be right there. Offensive line, $19.8 million. That's number 4. Defensive tackle, number 5 at $18.1 million. I didn't expect that, but hey, with Aaron Donald in there, I suppose it would get pretty high. Cornerback, I thought that would have been above D tackle, $17.3 million. Now it starts dropping, and you can kind of understand this. This one actually kind of shocked me too. Safeties at $14.4 million. I know we have Harrison Smith, and he's paid pretty well, but honestly, it seemed like even Zimmer said that just you can draft any, like, safeties are a dime a dozen apparently to him. But hey, we got a pretty good one. Tight end, $12.6 million. Running back, $12.3 million. That's still pretty high. That would kind of shock me too, that the average top 10 is $12.3 million. Linebacker, $12 million. So that's a top 10 average salary. So thinking in the draft, do you think we... And there's no center. Center is not in the top 10. I know there's some people out there that want us to draft the number 1 center to get rid of Garrett Bradbury and move a new center in there. But value of the pick is a center, and we already did it once, going to be worth it in the first round, considering the best players who are getting paid, interior offensive line, well, O-line it says here. That's usually tackles though. But, centers, interior linemen, not going to be ranked as high. Now, let's talk about what the consensus pick by the quote-unquote experts are saying. They're saying if Derek Singley Jr. is there at 12, that's who we'll pick. Now, there is some talk about us trading down. I can see us doing that. They're gonna discuss offers. I think quarterbacks are gonna go higher than people thought they were, like they do every year. There's actually a couple that I really like and wouldn't mind having, but take advantage of that. Get extra picks. If you can get an extra first round and move down to, let's say, the Steelers at 20, why not? There was a trade scenario which was suggested that we would get a future first and a third if we traded down to 20 with the Steelers. Would you pass that up? Probably not. You're going to get an extra first round pick. And considering our Moneyball analytics background of our GM, I'll call it that way. He doesn't like it. But hey, that's what people are calling it. He would take that in a heartbeat, I think, and trade down on the 20th pick. Now, Derek Singley Jr. is 6'1", 195 pounds, 42-inch vertical. He's tall for a cornerback, jumps like a deer, and he runs like one too. In his pro day, he was disappointed in his performance, and he ran a 4.37. And which is showing everybody that he's completely recovered from his Les Frank injury. Now, a little history of Singley Jr., Derek Singley Jr. He was named the top recruit of the 2019 class by Rivals and a finalist for the National Gatorade Player of the Year as a senior at Dunham School in Baton Rouge. #1 recruit in the nation. The 5-star recruit turned into a consensus first-team All-American for the national champions in 2019 as a true freshman. Now, there's video of him going against Jamar Chase, and he's shutting him down as a true freshman. So, if you have a chance, go look out there. There's some video on him. I wish I could share it in here. But he looked awesome. Just based off his video alone in his freshman year, he's being billed as a top cornerback in this draft. Most people have him #2 now that Sauce Gardner, performed off the charts at the combine. Now, that year he tied for 5th in the FBS with 6 interceptions, 2 of which came against Georgia in the SEC championship game. Singley also made 38 tackles and broke up 15 passes in 15 starts that season. He was first-team All-SEC pick in 2020. 27 tackles, 2.5 for loss, 5 pass breakups, even though he missed 3 games. 1 to illness and 2 the ankle injury. 2021, he was often injured too. But he is apparently finally recovered. And all you really have to go off of is his freshman tape, his combine performance, his pro day performance. And it looks like he's completely healthy finally. And we'll see. A little backstory. He is the grandson of late Darryl Stingley. And this is kind of a sad day in history of the NFL. Darryl Stingley was the first-round pick of the New England Patriots in 1973. He was a wide receiver and then became a quadriplegic after taking a hit to the head by the Oakland Raiders safety Jack Tatum. Remember, Jack Tatum had a history of being called a headhunter, and he would just hit people to hurt them. And Darryl Stingley was on the receiving end of that and became a quadriplegic. And that was in a preseason game, 1978. Now, Derek Singley Jr.'s father played cornerback for Purdue before going to play minor league baseball, and then he ended up being in Arena Football League. So he has a pedigree of being an athlete. Go find some YouTube video of him his freshman year against Jamar Chase. Go watch him play the SEC championship game against Georgia. He's got all the tools. He's got the height. He's got the leaping ability. He's got the speed, hips, movement. He's got it all. That's it for today. This is David Shilsky. This is Minnesota Sports Talk. You can follow me on Twitter at Skullworld and at MN Sports Podcast. Have a great day. See you next time.